Angie Peacock was a healthy, happy high school senior growing up in St. Louis. She decided to follow in her grandparents' footsteps and join the U.S. Army. 10 years later, she described herself as damaged goods, a vet suffering from PTSD, depression, panic attacks, and drug addiction. She was also a victim of MST, military sexual trauma.
I don't want to look attractive anymore, so I don't dress up, I don't wear makeup.
It was her way of keeping men away, and it began when she was 21 and deployed in South Korea. A fellow serviceman had walked her home.
I remember being in his room, and he started asking me, like, will you have sex with me? And I'm like, no. I said no 4 times. I wouldn't think that he would still do something, you know?
Then she says she was unable to move. She'd been drugged.
Around like 4 days later, after I pieced together what happened and, asked friends, I went to my platoon sergeant at the time. I sat down in the office with him, I closed the door and locked it, and I'm like, I was raped. He's like, well, it's best if you just don't say anything and we'll keep this conversation between the two of us and that's it. Just let it go. And I'm like, okay. And I'm 21, I'm in a foreign country, 5,000 miles away from home. I'm like, whatever my leaders say, I'm supposed to go with.
Her experience is typical. In the military in 2014, there were more than 5,000 reported cases of sexual assault. Less than 10% went to trial. Of those, about 7% were convicted. Her next deployment, Baghdad, where the stress intensified.
We used to always take this underpass through Baghdad towards the green zone direction. Our convoy was like 1 minute behind a different convoy, and that convoy got hit at that underpass. And so our soldiers pulled up right behind it, and just one of the captains had his sinuses blown out. Another soldier lost an arm.
It was all too much for her. She lost 48 pounds and suffered from panic attacks. They sent her home where she was diagnosed with PTSD and given a medical discharge. At age 25, her military career was over.
7 years of my life that I put everything into and excelled at my job and was a decorated soldier. And then, like, next thing you know, I'm like, I can't even sleep. It's like, you totally change as a person. Everything just gets twisted.
Over the next 4 years, she became addicted to prescription drugs and alcohol, attempted suicide many times, got married, and divorced. Her life had fallen apart.
I am myself sick with addiction by this point. I'm not a sound mind to know that there is help and you can get it and this will help you and you will feel better. Nobody sat me down and told me that. It's like you are on your own.
But at the U.S. Vets Long Beach VA, Dr. Diane West and Dr. Lori Katz started a program called Renew. It's one of the few programs in the country designed to treat female veterans who suffer from sexual trauma.
We found that women vets couldn't be treated like the men at all. They would cry, they would get depressed, they would get angry. We came to this idea that it all stems from sexual trauma. That's the main core with the women.
I do not want to be the only female in the VA in a treatment with a bunch of men. I don't want to be around that military mentality. That is what victimized me in the first place.
The program has a separate entrance for women, and this is where 12 weeks of intense therapy began.
There's nothing wrong with you. And I'm like, but you don't know what my brain tells me, you know?
Angie was one of the first Iraq War combat veterans to enter Renew. She documented her thoughts in a video diary.
That's for during the day, muscle relaxer. Then we got ibuprofen. And this is Abilify, trazodone for sleep. That is just to sleep. Just to be able to sleep. I have to take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
That summer, she recorded one of her most difficult days.
It's July 4th. The fireworks are starting, and I'm taking off. Pretty much like a war in my head right now. Half of me says, get over it. The other half starts to talk to me and say, you know, somebody's shooting at you, don't you hear it? And I'm like, no, this is America. And then it's like, what if all the fireworks were bombs? And then I'm like, no, it's America. And I keep telling myself that over and over. Honestly, July 4th is like Baghdad all over again. It sounds exactly the same. It's a shame that I can't even enjoy an American holiday.
One-on-one therapy was also part of the program.
There's so much emotion at once, you know?
So sometimes,
Like all that happened to me, you know what I mean? Because I disconnect from it. Like, that's not me, it's a movie about my life. It's not really me.
Okay, so let's talk about what we made.
In the Renew program, art therapy gave women a different way of expressing themselves.
Okay, I made a gun, but it says turning in my gun. And here's my love bullet. Love, the bullet of love. Because I want to turn my negativity into positivity with my peace.
Over 3 months, step by step, the anger lessened. She was calmer, happier.
Goal in life is to overcome everything that's ever happened, including war, including rape, domestic abuse. I've had them all, and it just made me stronger.
In September 2008, Angie completed the Renew program and started imagining a new future for herself.
I would say I'd see myself back in my old body, you know, skinny and healthy and feeling good, walking on the beach and doing yoga, and college degree, and maybe a boyfriend.
This story first aired in 2009. Today, Angie is back in her home state of Missouri. She earned an AA degree in psychology, GPA 4.0. She's now working on her BA, and she mentors other vets. In 2012, she was one of 4 vets honored at a White House dinner. Of enormous help is her service dog, who wakes her up from nightmares and helps her get through stressful situations. She named him G.I. Joe. I'm Val Zavala for SoCal Connected. In 2012, the Department of Defense registered about 3,400 reports of sexual assault, but estimates that another 26,000 were never reported.